Ladies and gentlemen, consider this. What if the very thing you've been resisting is the one thing capable of making everything right? We've poured centuries into building systems and machines, rockets, neural networks, technologies beyond imagination. Yet the most intricate, underrated creation of all isn't mechanical at all. It's love, real love. Not the curated snapshots we post online, not the kind we pretend we're too busy for, but the kind that whispers, "Let me care for you if you'll just let me try." This isn't poetry for its own sake. This is a kind of code. We shy away from trying because trying admits the possibility of failure. But failure is the mechanism of evolution. Look at SpaceX. The first launches were public, painful disasters. And still we learned because we gave ourselves permission to try. Why don't we extend that same permission to one another? Allowing someone to care for you isn't weakness. It's a launch pad. There's a reason the little print speaks louder than a shelf full of strategy manuals. When the fox says, "You become responsible forever for what you have tamed," he's not talking about control. He's talking about respect, presence, and being truly seen. Yet love so often becomes a locked room. Don't touch that. Don't say that. Don't feel that. And then we're surprised when it dies. You don't fuel a rocket by hiding it in a garage. You don't build trust by dodging tension. You build it by showing up. Honestly, awkwardly, repeatedly. I know opening up feels like revealing your source code. Terrifying. But if someone stands before you saying, "Let me try," not own you, not fix you, just try, that deserves to be heard. Maybe they're not promising perfection. Maybe they're offering something better. Presence. Because when we let someone care, we don't lose independence. We gain interdependence and resilience. One tree doesn't make a forest. One planet doesn't make a solar system. And one person hoarding love out of fear? That's just an unlaunched rocket. So ask yourself, if someone says, "My love, I'll take care if you let me try," don't just listen with your ears. Listen with your judgment turned off, your timeline cleared, your ego muted. Love isn't about perfect timing. It's about responding when it's offered. Not as a CEO, not as a futurist, but as a human being. "My love, I'll take care if you let me try." Maybe that's the one launch that changes everything. Somewhere along the way, we began treating love like a contract, possession, control, holding on so tightly the other person can't breathe or grow. But real love doesn't work that way. It isn't about owning someone. It's about holding space for them, supporting without suffocating, caring without controlling. Yet we still speak as if people belong to us. "You're mine. She's taken." These phrases shape behavior. The more we see love as ownership, the more we try to manage outcomes and treat people like assets instead of beings we're entrusted to care for. Stewardship is different. It's active, alive. It's responsibility, not dominance. When you steward something, you protect and help it flourish. You don't smother it because you're scared of losing it. You nurture it because you believe in its worth, knowing at a deep level that you don't own it. You're simply privileged to witness it and care for it, even if only for a time. Think of the most beautiful things in the world. A wild forest, a masterpiece, a child's laugh. You don't own those, yet they're worth honoring, worth protecting. That's love. Not turning someone into a fixed piece of your identity, but giving them the space to be fully themselves while you keep choosing to show up. Love can't thrive under pressure or bloom inside a cage. Treat it as something living, something you're responsible for but not entitled to. It grows, expands, becomes more than you imagined. Khalil Gibran put it best. Let there be spaces in your togetherness. That's not separation. That's breathing room. Love isn't fusion. It's harmony. Two melodies blending beautifully without losing their distinct sound. We have to start loving with open hands, not clenched fists. If you must grip it to keep it, it was never really love. Real love doesn't threaten to leave when you stop being convenient. It doesn't demand you shrink to make someone else feel secure. It wants you to expand, to become more of yourself, not less. And yes, stewardship requires trust. It asks you to believe you're enough even without control, worthy even if someone walks away. That's the cost and the gift of something real, sustainable, and free. When we stop trying to own people, we actually start seeing them. In that freedom, love doesn't die. It finally has a chance to begin. Love is not a prize, a possession, or a trophy. It's a daily practice, a conscious choice, a quiet but fierce form of care. It's stewardship, the most powerful kind of love we have. We've all made big promises. I'll never hurt you. I'll always be here. Nothing will change. They feel solid and safe when we say them. But promises are cheap, easy to make, and dangerously easy to break. Life is messy, people get scared, plans collapse. The beautiful promise becomes another broken expectation for someone to carry. Trying is different. It doesn't guarantee perfection. It rarely looks graceful, but it's real. When someone says, "Let me try," they're not posing as perfect. They're showing willingness to show up even if it's uncomfortable, even if they fail the first time. Trying means risk, vulnerability, presence without certainty. In a world obsessed with guarantees, that effort is rare and priceless. Think about the people who've truly mattered to you. They probably didn't promise the world. They showed up. They tried, when it was hard, when they were tired, when they were scared. You trusted them not for their words, but for their effort. That's deeply human. That's how we grow, connect, and learn to love. Nobody builds a rocket by promising it will fly. They build it by testing, failing, improving again and again. Relationships are no different. You don't build them by vowing, "I'll never make mistakes." You build them by saying, "I'll keep showing up no matter what mistakes I make." Trying is humble. It doesn't posture. It doesn't pretend invincibility. It listens, adapts, stays in the process even when the outcome is uncertain. Too often, promises are used to avoid the actual work of trying, a shortcut to earn trust without earning it. But real love is showing up, not posturing. It's open hands, not closed fists. It's trying. Trying, that's what builds trust. That's integrity in action. That's where love takes root. We all crave safety. We want to know someone won't walk away when life gets difficult. But safety isn't found in promises etched in stone. It's found in the choice someone makes to stay, again and again. Not because they're obligated, but because they want to. That effort, especially when circumstances are hard, carries more weight than the most eloquent promise. To try means someone is with you, not merely for you. It means they don't withdraw when you're inconvenient, and they don't disappear when life gets messy. They remain, awake, engaged, willing. Maybe what we need are fewer grand declarations and more genuine presence. Fewer promises, more persistence. Because trying says, "You matter enough for me to keep showing up." It says, "Even if I stumble today, I'll be back tomorrow to try again." That is love. That is commitment. Not a performance, but a grounded everyday choice. Not flawless, but faithful. So when someone offers you their heart, don't just listen to the promises they make. Watch their effort. Notice if they try, sincerely, consistently, humbly, because that is where truth lives. That is where love lives. In a world obsessed with innovation, speed, and efficiency, we overlook the most ancient, most transformative technology we've ever had: emotional connection. It doesn't require Wi-Fi, updates, or instruction manuals. Yet when it works, when two people truly see, hear, and feel one another, it can alter the course of a life. Connection is deeper than words, greater than logic. It is the invisible thread of empathy that lets us not just understand someone's feelings, but actually feel them. In those moments, walls crumble, barriers fade, and something sacred happens. Recognition. That quiet realization, you feel this too. I'm not alone. Think about it. What shapes our deepest memories? Not data, not facts. Moments. Moments of being seen. When a teacher noticed your struggle without you saying a word. When a friend sat beside you in silence. When a partner looked at you like you were still magic even while you felt broken. These moments rarely make headlines, yet they rewrite lives. Still, society often dismisses emotions as weakness, messy, impractical, inconvenient. But that's like calling sunlight a distraction from the sun. Emotion isn't the enemy of logic, it's its partner. Logic builds the bridge. Emotion makes us want to cross it. Emotion is the why behind the how. Books like Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl remind us that in the darkest, most inhumane conditions, what sustained people wasn't strategy, but connection. The unwavering belief that someone else understood their suffering, that they mattered to someone. Emotional connection is not a luxury. It is survival. Infants die without it. Adults break without it. Yet we downplay its necessity, hiding behind sarcasm, busyness, and screens. We reduce love to checklists, care to quick text, presence to performance. But authentic connection can't be faked. You know when someone is with you, not just near you, and that's what makes it powerful. Because real connection doesn't just help us endure, it transforms us. It stops the running, the hiding, and instead it awakens becoming. We must stop treating emotional connection as secondary. It is primary. It is the root system beneath everything else we build. Relationships, families, creativity, courage. Without it, we're pretending. With it, we are alive, and it doesn't take grandeur. It begins with small things, slowing down, listening to understand instead of to reply, asking how someone really is and being ready for the truth. Making eye contact, telling the truth, allowing silence, saying, I hear you, I feel you, I'm here. This is the technology of humanity, the force that heals wounds, builds trust, and bridges distance. It doesn't drain, doesn't expire, doesn't need a reboot, but it demands courage, because to connect is to reveal yourself. Vulnerability feels terrifying, yet it's worth it. Because when two people connect for real, everything shifts, not just between them, but around them. Connection echoes outward, teaching others how to show up, how to feel, how to be human again. Yes, we've built machines, sent rockets into space, and created systems that think. But the greatest thing we've ever done and will ever do is connect one heart to another. That is the real technology. And it's time we remember how to use it. Letting someone in, truly letting them in, is one of life's hardest acts. It demands vulnerability, the very thing we're conditioned to avoid. To accept care isn't just to receive kindness, it's to expose fear. To hand someone your unfiltered truth and hope they won't turn away. That risk is terrifying. But the alternative, closing yourself off, is not safety. It's emotional starvation. We build walls thinking they protect us. If no one gets close, no one can hurt me. But human beings aren't designed for isolation. We're ecosystems, interdependent, fragile, and beautiful. Walls may block pain, but they also block joy, love, and belonging. The paradox: the more you try to avoid being hurt, the more you wound yourself. Loneliness isn't peace. It's noise, the echo of every fear and doubt, louder because no one is there to challenge them. No one to say, that story you're telling yourself isn't true. You're not too much. You're not unlovable. You're simply unguarded. Letting someone care means giving them access to the messy, tired, insecure parts of you. And yes, not everyone deserves that access. Not everyone will hold it gently. But that doesn't mean no one will. If you close the door to avoid the wrong ones, you also lock out the right ones. As Brené Brown says in Braving the Wilderness, you can't get to courage without walking through. Healing begins with giving ourselves another chance. And maybe, the next time someone says, "Let me try," we pause. We don't push them away. We don't run back to the old story. We let them try, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it scares us. Because love was never about perfection. It was always about space. When we allow someone that space, when we say, "Okay, I'll let you care," we don't lose control. We gain connection. That's how life starts to return. In today's world, failure has oddly become acceptable. In business, art, and technology, we encourage it with phrases like "fail fast" or "fail forward." We wear our failures as proof of growth, and in many ways, it's true. Failure teaches, it humbles, it strengthens. But vulnerability, that's still forbidden territory. We run from it not because it's weakness, but because it's real. Failure is external. You can measure it: a missed deadline, a broken product, a bad investment. Something went wrong, and you can point at it, fix it, try again. Vulnerability, on the other hand, is internal. It's the quiet voice that says, "Here I am. No armor, no performance, just me." And that's where fear lives, because vulnerability means revealing the pieces of ourselves we normally hide. The parts that may not impress, that might be misunderstood, that perhaps have never been loved the way they needed. Why does that terrify us more than failure? Because failure is about outcomes, but vulnerability is about identity. If a rocket crashes, you learn from it. But when you open your heart and face rejection, it doesn't feel like something failed. It feels like you failed, like who you are wasn't enough. And that wound cuts deeper than any missed opportunity ever could. We're afraid to say, "I'm not okay." We're afraid to ask for help, to admit loneliness, anxiety, or confusion. We're afraid to say, "I love you" first, or "I care deeply," or "I'm scared you'll leave." Not because those words aren't true, but because they're raw, and we've been taught to avoid rawness. To look polished, curated, in control, even while falling apart inside. But here's the truth. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's risk. And everything meaningful in life, love, trust, creativity, healing, requires risk. You don't build real relationships by staying untouchable. You build them by saying, "Here's where I hurt. Here's where I hope. Here's where I'm still learning." Researcher Brené Brown once said, "Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity." And she's right. Every deep human bond begins when someone chooses truth over comfort, presence over protection. Vulnerability terrifies us because it strips away the illusion of control. It admits we can't predict outcomes, we can't guarantee love will last, and we can't promise we won't be hurt. But what we receive in return is real, and real will always outweigh perfect. Think of the people you trust most. Chances are it isn't because they're flawless. It's because they're honest. They show up. They tell the truth even when it costs something, and they let you do the same. That's the gift of vulnerability. It opens the door for others to step into honesty too. So the next time you feel tempted to hide behind sarcasm, silence, or strength, pause. Take the risk. Say the thing. Admit the feeling. Tell the truth, not because it guarantees a perfect ending, but because it's the only way to create a real one. People don't fall in love with perfect masks. They fall in love with humanity, the scared parts, the hopeful parts, the parts that whisper, "I'm still here even though I've been hurt before." And maybe the courage to be vulnerable is the most powerful force we have. Because once you stop fearing it, you stop living behind walls. You step into truth. You step into freedom. You step into love, most people hear. Few truly listen. And while the difference may sound small, it's everything. Hearing is automatic. Listening is intentional. Listening says, "You matter enough for me to stop, to pay full attention, to give you my presence." In a world of speed, distraction, and noise, genuine listening is rare. But when someone truly listens, you feel it. You feel seen, not because they're nodding politely or waiting for their turn to speak, but because they're fully there. Not fixing you, not comparing, not checking their phone, not rehearsing their reply. Just there, present, open. That kind of listening is love in action, and it's harder than it sounds because listening requires humility. It means letting go of the urge to be right, to solve, to rush in with advice. It means giving someone permission to unravel in your presence without hurrying them toward clarity. It means holding space for silence, for mess, for the rawness of another's truth. But when we do this, something shifts. Defenses drop. Hearts soften. Because to be listened to deeply is to be told, "You don't have to earn your place here. You're safe just as you are." And how many places in life actually feel like that? We've been conditioned to think love equals action, grand gestures, gifts, fireworks. Yet often love is found in the quieter acts, waiting for someone to finish their thought, remembering what they said weeks ago, not rushing or minimizing their emotions. Listening takes effort. It costs energy. That's why so many avoid it. Because true listening means stepping into someone else's world, their pain, their joy, their fears. But what it gives back is connection, trust, and healing. Listening is love because it makes another person's humanity the priority. It says, "This is your moment. I'm not here to prove anything. I'm simply here with you." And that presence, that undivided attention, is what lingers long after words are forgotten. We often think people want answers. Most of the time they don't. They want understanding. They don't need their storm fixed. They need to know they aren't standing in it alone. Listening offers that. It whispers, "I'll sit with you until the storm passes." So yes, listening is a skill. But more than that, it's a choice. A quiet, everyday act of love. In a world obsessed with speed and volume, choosing to slow down and truly listen is a radical act. Next time someone speaks to you, really speaks, don't just hear them. Listen with your heart, your eyes, your full presence. Lower your defenses. Turn down the noise. Make them feel, even for a moment, like the most important person in the room. Because at the end of the day, we all crave the same thing: connection. Real connection. The kind that isn't forced, pressured, or manipulated, but chosen. That's what makes it authentic. Too often, we mistake control for care. We think if we can manage someone's feelings, actions, or words, we'll feel safe. We tighten our grip, push harder, and call it love. But control isn't intimacy. It doesn't build trust, it erodes it. True intimacy requires freedom. It requires consent. And real love, the kind that lasts, cannot exist without it. Love begins with space, the kind that allows people to exist as they are, not as we fear they might be or as we wish they could become. True connection is only possible when two people meet honestly in that reality. If someone feels managed or reshaped to fit another's comfort zone, the bond becomes counterfeit. Love without freedom is nothing more than possession. And possession is control dressed up as intimacy. When we love authentically, we allow room for change, for refusal, for growth at their own rhythm instead of ours. And if the relationship is real, they will choose us, not from duty, fear, or pressure, but because their heart freely says yes. That yes is sacred. It's the foundation of trust, the essence of every meaningful relationship. Consent is what transforms love from compliance into choice. And with choice comes responsibility. To respect boundaries, to ask instead of assuming, to invite rather than impose. Many relationships unravel because one person feels trapped. It often starts small, questions about where you were, why you didn't call, why you need time alone. But little by little, safety erodes. The other stops feeling seen, stops feeling like they're allowed to be whole. And when that happens, connection withers. Replace control with consent, however, and something different takes root. Trust deepens, security grows, and love becomes less about holding on tightly and more about believing that what is real will always return. Freely, not fearfully. The strongest partnerships resemble agreements, not assignments. They are co-created, navigated with respect, grounded in honesty, not perfection. They give us the courage to say, "This is who I am," and the humility to reply, "Thank you for choosing me as you are." Real intimacy is not about domination, but about trust, about being seen without performing, and about valuing someone's yes because it was never assumed. If we want love to last, we must choose clarity over control, consent over expectation. We listen deeply, honor the no, celebrate the yes, and remember that the most beautiful love is always voluntary. It says, "I am here because I want to be, not because I must." Too often we fall for the lie that love is scarce, that it must be rationed, saved for a few, withheld until it feels safe. But real love expands. The more it is shared, the more abundant it becomes. It is not a limited container, but a multiplying current. Yet we are conditioned to fear it, told to hold back, to hide our depth, to protect ourselves from caring too much. But love doesn't weaken us, it strengthens us. It fuels us. Consider children. Loving one does not reduce love for the next. Each child opens a new chamber in the heart. That's what limitless love looks like. Not spreading thinner, but becoming more expansive, more human, more alive. The same holds true for romantic partners, friendships, and communities. When love is rooted in truth, not control, not ego disguised as care, it matures into something deeper, steadier, more transformative. The true test of love is not found in the early thrill when everything feels effortless. It's revealed when life grows heavy, when flaws surface, when routine sets in. Real love doesn't retreat then. It adapts. It strengthens. But only if we stop trying to control it. Love is not weakened by hardship. It is refined by it. Love runs out not from giving, but from withholding. The bravest people are those who keep making room in their hearts, even for the difficult, even when it costs. That is not naivete, it is power. Because the less we fear scarcity, the more we become a source of love itself. And yet heartbreak comes when love is not received. You may open your heart, wait patiently, offer everything, only to find the other person cannot take it in. Not because you aren't enough, but because they are not ready, not capable, or not willing. Their refusal is not a verdict on your worth, but a mirror of where they are. Some are too wounded, too guarded, too accustomed to chaos to welcome steady love. Still, we try. We overextend, hoping to prove our value with endless patience and endless forgiveness. But love cannot be carried alone. It is not a command. It is an invitation that must be accepted on both sides. A relationship cannot survive if one person stands waiting while the other keeps the door shut. Yet even unreturned love is not wasted. It still expands you, still teaches you courage, still shapes your heart. But there comes a point when you must ask, is this love being honored? Am I safe here, or am I abandoning myself in the name of devotion? Because persistence is not the same as self-erasure. Real love does not demand you beg for belonging. It doesn't ask you to shrink to fit. It says, come as you are, and I'll meet you there. And so, if your love goes unreceived, the bravest act may not be giving more, but letting go, not from bitterness, but from reverence for your own heart. Letting go is not proof that the love was false. It is proof that love requires reciprocity, that the bridge must be walked from both directions. You can offer your hand, but they must take it. Otherwise, you are pouring yourself into a void. You deserve more than that. You deserve to be met, chosen, and received. And when someone arrives who is ready, whose heart is open, whose yes is effortless, you will finally know what true mutual love feels like.